there's these two twin boys, right? They have a father that was addicted to alcohol, pornography, was in and out of prison, and they grow up, and the one boy, he ends up being just like his dad. He was in and out of prison. He was an addiction to drugs, alcohol, pornography. The other son, super successful, goes on to build this world-class business, ends up becoming something of worth and of value. And so they're interviewing these two twin boys, and they asked the one boy, and they said, hey, why is it that you turned out just like your dad? Why are you addicted to drugs and alcohol and in and out of prison? And this boy says, isn't it obvious? Have you not met my dad? And then they asked the other boy that's super successful. They said, hey, how is it that you go on to build this super successful empire? You marry someone of your dreams and you're just becoming someone that's of value and of worth. And he says, isn't it obvious? Don't you know my father? The same experience, right? Two different outcomes. One became bitter and followed it. The other one became better. And I've learned that when you let God write the story, he can take your deepest pain and turn it into purpose. And that's a truth, guys. So let me take you back to my first year as an entrepreneur when I thought I was chasing success. And it actually really looked a lot like failure. Back to back to back to back to back. Let's go back to day one. I'll never forget that first year in entrepreneurship. And guys, it wasn't a lack of hunger. It wasn't a lack of determination. I was very hungry. I was very determined and willing to do whatever it took. And so I was working 60, I was working 70, I was working sometimes 80-hour weeks, trying to get this insurance business off the ground. And I thought if I just worked harder, if I just put in more time, eventually this is all going to pay off. It's going to come back tenfold. But at the end of the year, when I finally sat down to do the math, I had brought home just $19,000. You guys, not $19,000 in 6 months or 2 months or in 1 month or in 8 months. Over a 12-month period, I brought home $19,000. At the time, being married, me and my wife, we have Bentley that was probably about, I don't know, 2-3 years old. We had a little baby, Kenley. Fast forward, she's now 15. Bentley's now 17. But you guys, I don't care who you are. 19 grand, I don't even know if you can live on your own with 19 grand, let alone be married, have a mortgage payment, and have 2 kids. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, not just all the hours, all the sacrifice. And I remember just sitting there thinking sometimes in this whole game of entrepreneurship, because it really was my first stab at it. But I remember asking like, all of this, like for what? Like really? Because I was young, I was naive. I wasn't who I am today. I couldn't see the end picture and I couldn't see where I'd be 10, 15 years from there. It was literally just, why? I'm putting all this time and for what? And I remember feeling in that time, guys, to be completely honest, I remember feeling embarrassed. I remember feeling defeated. I remember feeling that the hardest part, it wasn't just the money. And that was hard. Don't get me wrong. 19,000, you're not going on trips. You're not doing anything. You're making, my wife would make her own bread. Like you really are doing everything you can to just expand this 19,000, which is not expandable, guys. It's just not enough money. But I was also realizing just how much time I missed with my family. That was something that probably cut me more than the 19 grand is I was gone from sun up to sundown. So I was losing so much time with my family. If I was physically gone, I was mentally distracted. I was emotionally spent. And I remember sitting there thinking, what am I doing? Is this even worth it? Is this going to pay out? Is this going to turn into anything great? But here's the crazy part. Even though it felt like such a loss, God was planting seeds that I couldn't even see. And let me give you an experience of this, an example of this. When I first got into insurance, I thought the perfect avatar or the perfect client would be a real estate investor. That was just the thought that came to my mind. And I acted upon that thought. Thank goodness I did. And I thought, man, they have nice homes, they have nice cars, they have multiple homes because they own rentals. So if I just have one client, I could have like 20 policies. And that's what my mind was thinking is how can one client produce the most amount of policies? And the person that came to my mind, real estate investors. They've got it figured out. They've got everything the way it needs to be. So even though I felt like it was such a loss, God was planting seeds that I couldn't see yet, right? Because most of those people I was insuring, they ended up being real estate investors. And over time, I started asking questions. I started learning how they were making money. And I started seeing how they were structuring deals. And through that, fast forward 5 years later from insuring these individuals, those same connections, those same investors, they became the bridge that led me into what's called wholesaling real estate. This is something I still do to this day. That failure year That $19,000, that all that time gone from hanging out with my family, hanging out with my wife, hanging out with my beautiful wife and kids was actually the foundation for everything that came next. Because what followed was a real estate wholesaling empire that was doing 7 figures. That led me to then co-founding a world-class coaching business where we were coaching about 3,500 students nationwide how to do the exact same thing, how to wholesale real estate. To now, fast forward to today, growing and thriving franchise Joe Homebuyer. All of that was a result of what felt like, seriously, the biggest loss in my life. 19 grand. What a shame, right? I was devastated. I was depleted. Fast forward, seeing that God's hand was all over the details. He was prepping me for something bigger. So here's something I want you to think about. Lesson number 1 that I learned from this little experience that happened in my life. Sometimes your biggest loss is just a setup for your biggest comeback. Do you guys feel like that? Do you feel like you're going through a loss right now? If you are, I want you to go through it. I want you to do what Winston Churchill said. If you're going through hell, keep on going, right? That's not just a country song. That's Winston Churchill. Keep on going. Why? Because your biggest loss is just a setup for your biggest comeback. And you can't just see the win yet. It's okay. It's coming. It's right around the corner. Loss number 2. Loss number 2. This is the what ends up being the next bigger loss. A $250,000 investment. Years later, I thought I was past those kinds of mistakes, right? Like, oh man, I've learned. I'm not going to do anything stupid. Wrong. Business was doing good, right? It was booming. I had money in the bank. And when a friend came to me with a new startup opportunity, I thought, this is it. Right? This could be huge. This is something that people do naturally. They invest in companies. So I invested $250,000, guys. And within a year, in fact, it was less than a year, it was gone. Just like that. Like as fast as I invested it, as fast as it felt like it left out the door and it was gone. That one stung, not just financially, guys, because I did have business going. We still had income coming in, but emotionally, I really did. I really felt like I was betrayed. I felt foolish. And I remember one day sitting in my truck asking God, like, why did this happen? Not blaming him, because at the end of the day, I signed the dotted line. Let's be completely honest. I didn't read the financials. I felt like I only got into this investment because it was almost like a relational decision. Like, oh, I want to deepen my relationship with these individuals. I didn't look at what the business would do, what the metrics were, that it'd even win at any high level. I didn't look at any of that. And because of that, of course, when you don't do your homework, and the financials, had I done my homework, would have said, don't invest in this company, and you invest anyways, of course, you're going to lose your money, right? So I felt foolish. And I remember asking, why did this happen? Why did this happen? And as clear as day, I felt this prompting back to me in my heart and in my mind. And it said, Cody, stay your lane. Like this was the thought that was going through my head. I wish I could say I heard the voice. It wasn't, but it was this perfect thought in my mind. Like, Cody, stay your lane. Stop investing in other people's dreams. Just invest in you. If you keep doing what I've called you to do, you'll have more than enough. That one line, guys, stay your lane, has guided me ever since. Because every time I invest in myself, whenever I invest in my growth, whenever I invest in my business, my calling, my family, it's paid off 100 times every single time. Every single time. But here's where the story gets even more beautiful. That startup I invested in, that one that failed, that cost me a loss of $250,000. Here's the beauty. And when you look at it and say, okay, is life truly just happening to me? Or is it more like Tony Robbins says? And he says, no, life's actually happening for you. Let me tell you how life happened for me, even when I lost $250,000. They had an executive assistant working for them, someone who was incredible. In fact, they were the best person on the whole entire team. They were the ones that made sure everything was happening like it was supposed to be happening, fulfilled all roles, responsibilities. She was incredible. Fast forward today, that same executive assistant is now my executive assistant. And she crushes it. She's been one of the greatest blessings to our business, to our family, and to our team. So yeah, I lost $250,000. Don't get me wrong. But I gained something back that was priceless. And it's a reminder to trust God's redirect, trust his direction. And a person who's now part of our legacy that we're building, she gets to be part of that legacy with us. So lesson number 2, even when the money is gone, the mission isn't. God redeems what we think we've lost, sometimes in ways we never could have planned, right? Don't think when you lose money, oh man, everything's over, it's done. No, the mission is not done. Trust in God, trust in his redirect. He will guide your path to go get it back. More importantly, Find the win during your loss. Story number 3, guys. I really, truly hope I can hold this together. Those 2 losses don't even come close in comparison to this third one. This one is the hardest one. It's not about business. It's about a life, and it's about one of the greatest human being on earth, life. A few years ago, I lost my mom to cancer, and nothing prepares you for that kind of loss, guys. I was 38 years old. She was 68 years old. So super young. Super, super, super young. And I felt like the ground, guys, had been ripped right out from under me. My mom, she was my biggest supporter. She believed in me long before I believed in myself. And when she passed, there was this silence that felt unbearable in my life. I had always dreamed of growing old and having conversations with my mom as she's older than me, saying, hey, what do you do that makes you just the incredible mom? What makes you an incredible grandma? What makes you incredible? And losing her at 68 changed that reality pretty dang quick. But in the season of grief, something sacred happened, guys. And I remember as she was dying, someone had told me, and she told me to record every conversation. And so my voice memos in my phone, I'm actually holding my phone as we speak because I'm looking at all those voice memos. I have every one of my conversations with my mom the last 3 weeks of her life. And I would spend hours listening to them when I lost her. I would drive down the street, I'd be in my truck, and I just wanted to hear Mom. And I'm so grateful I did this memo, these voice memos. And I just push play and I just listen to my mom. And I do this every single day on the way home from work. I'd listen to a new voice memo. And you guys, forever grateful. Now here's the sacred moment that happened. I'm sitting in church one day, and one of the things we do, it's called just taking the sacrament, where you just kind of renew your promises to be committed to God, right? To be committed to Christ. And in that prayer that they say every time we take sacrament, it says, and they always will remember him, talking about Christ, right? And I remember just starting to cry during that prayer. And my wife leans over and she kind of grabs my hand. She says, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm okay. These are good tears." Because of what was just learned in that moment. As a follower of Christ, I need to be remembering Christ always. And I was having this surreal moment because I remember my mom always. I remember my mom daily. I was pulling up recordings of her and listening to her daily. And I saw how much time, even though my mom's not with me now, I saw how much time I was dedicated to still remember her often and to listen to her often. And I asked myself, am I doing that with Christ? Am I remembering him daily? Am I listening to his words daily, like I remember my mom daily, like I listen to my mom daily? And I finally got it. I finally understood what it means to always remember him, because I had the perfect example going on in my life at that moment of remembering my mom always. Ever since that moment, I began to turn toward God in a deeper way than I think I ever have before. I stopped trying to fill my schedule, and I started feeling, I started feeling my soul, guys. I started feeling my heart and my mind with this goodness, this greatness, and started increasing my spirituality. I started showing up more present as a husband, as a dad, as a son. Because when you watch someone you love take their last breath, guys, it changes how you see everything. You realize that success isn't about what you build. It's about who you become. And that moment, as painful as it was, became one of the greatest gifts of my life. It recentered me on what truly matters: my faith, my family, my fitness, and being fully present in every moment. So here's lesson number 3 that I learned from this. Losing my mom reminded me that life is short. And the greatest legacy we can leave, it isn't wealth or recognition, guys. It's love and it's time, right? When I say time, being fully present. And my wife always says, kids, how they spell love is Time. You show your love with the time that you give the individuals around you. So here's what I've learned through it all. Loss is never wasted when you extract the wisdom. Life, I promise you, to each one of you listening today, is not happening to you, it's happening for you, if you will take the time to extract the wisdom that is this so-called loss that's happening in your life is actually your greatest lessons. It's your greatest learning. It's the greatest gifts that you can receive. Sometimes it's not punishment, it's preparation. Sometimes it's not rejection, it's redirection. And sometimes it's not the end, but just the beginning of something better. And I believe with all my heart, God uses our deepest pain to prepare us for our greatest purpose. So let me ask you, what's the loss in your life? And think about it. I know some of you are listening to this right now and you might be going through loss, and my prayers are with you. What's the loss in your life that might be actually a setup for something greater? What is God trying to teach you right now through this loss? Because maybe the thing that feels like it's breaking you is actually building you. You guys, if this episode spoke to you, would you do me a huge favor? Share it with someone who's in a season of loss, someone who needs hope, someone who needs to know that there's still purpose in the pain. And remember, your story, it's not over. God's not done writing it. Losses only stay losses if you stop learning from them. So keep going, my friend. The win is on its way. Thank you for showing up. God bless you guys in your losses, that you will find the greatest gift as a result. And I'll see you on the next episode.